You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4.
We begin with developing news. The 4 center lanes on US 151 southbound at the Beltline are open again after a crash this afternoon. This happened just after 140 on Verona Road. Madison Fire says 2 ambulances took people to St. Mary's Hospital, and then another one took someone to Meriter. We will continue to provide you updates as we get them.
And now turning to weather, let's get to Blaze Keller, who is out on the weather patio with our first warned weather forecast, and at least not with the umbrella this time.
No, we were able to put away the umbrellas today. We've even seen some sunshine here across Madison, across central and southern Wisconsin. We're beginning to welcome in that high pressure system, which is going to keep us quiet through the rest of your evening and into Friday and really throughout your Memorial Day weekend. It's 57 in Madison as well as in McFarland, 60 in Sauk City, Cross Plains and Middleton. A wider view of southern Wisconsin showing 60 stretching from the Dells, even Black River Falls all the way south into Prairie du Chien along the Wisconsin River. A little bit cooler off towards Milwaukee where they're at 51 right now. But despite the fact that we're still underneath a mix of partly sunny to mostly cloudy conditions, we're warmer than where we were yesterday by about 5 to 10, even 15 degrees. And we're going to continue to warm on up as we head further into your work week and then into your Memorial Day weekend. Speaking of Memorial Day weekend, let's take a look at what Mother Nature has in store for us. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Partly sunny conditions, low to mid 60s. An isolated shower can't be ruled out Sunday or Monday, but most of us, I think, are going to stay dry versus seeing that shower activity. And of course, you can always take the the First Warned Weather app with you and use our interactive radar and track out those showers. But as I said, I think a lot of us are going to stay dry. Now, the dry conditions are set to continue, so when will rain return to central and southern Wisconsin? And when will the warmer summer-like temperatures also return? Or we're tracking it out in the full forecast.
Thank you, Blaze. The man charged with a triple homicide in New Lisbon last year will have a preliminary hearing this summer.
47-year-old Virgil Thu appeared in court in Juneau County this morning. The court set August 21st for his preliminary hearing. Thu is charged with 8 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. Those include 3 counts of first-degree homicide, 1 with domestic abuse, 3 counts of hiding a body, and 1 for possessing a gun as a felon.
And those charges stem from the deaths of 33-year-old Elizabeth Kolba and 12-year-old Alexandria Jean Taylor, as well as 13-year-old Skyla Sorensen in December. Court documents say police were conducting a search for a missing girl that led them to discover the victims' bodies at a home on West Bridge Street. Autopsies confirmed all 3 were shot to death. In January, police arrested Thu in Elroy. He'll remain in jail on a $5 million bond until his preliminary hearing this summer.
So if you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, this is the number on your screen for the Domestic Abuse Intervention Services. You can call and receive help at any hour of the day, every day of the week. And if you don't feel comfortable talking on the phone, you can text the number at the bottom of your screen as well.
There's been a changing of the guard in Wisconsin, quite literally, actually.
That's right. Last month, Governor Evers appointed a new adjutant general to lead the Wisconsin National Guard. Political reporter Will Keneally sat down with him to discuss his priorities leading the service.
General Strub took the post back in April, which comes in the wake of significant federal policy changes to the military. And in Wisconsin, the National Guard here is also part of the Army Reserve, so those changes impact Guard members here in the state. We asked the new adjutant general about that impact.
Whether it's Air Force and Army, and they're slightly different. They have different regulations, but we have to follow those policies. And then we work with our personnel to make sure that we treat people with dignity and respect throughout, right? As the policies change, we want to take care of our people, and that's really our focus.
This is part of a wide-ranging interview that we did with General Strub, and you can see more from our conversation this Sunday at 10:30 on For the Record.
Thank you, Will. Well, the Big Beautiful Bill Act is headed to the Senate. The House passed it this morning in a 215 to 214 vote. All of Wisconsin's representatives voted along party lines for the bill, which extends the president's 2017 tax cuts. It also cuts taxes on tips and overtime and increases spending on the military and the border. To pay for that, it increases U.S. debt, slashes spending on food stamps, and cuts hundreds of billions of dollars in funding for Medicaid. And that could prevent senators from getting the bill to the president's desk.
The Senate will basically write its own version of this bill, and I just want to make sure that there are no Medicaid benefit cuts. I'm concerned about some of what the House has done on rural hospitals, essentially the hospital tax.
Think of this as a one-team effort, as we have, and to modify this as little as possible, because it will make it easy.
Republicans who support the bill hope to send it to President Trump by the 4th of July. If that happens, the Congressional Budget Office says millions of people will lose health care coverage.
At the state capitol, Democrats are looking to extend a pandemic-era child care program that Republicans took out of the state budget. Legislators in both houses introduced a bill that would invest $480 million in what is called child care counts. During the pandemic, the state approved millions of dollars for the program through June of this year. Later on Live at 4, Armand Rahman tells us how an end to that program could affect you.
Right now, people are getting ready for the Memorial Day weekend.
And as you prepare to hit the road, police departments across the country are ramping up the patrols. Our Tanisha Shaw has more on the Click It or Ticket campaign.
First of all, buckle up.
Cops are buckling down on buckling up.
So our goal is to reduce crashes and reduce fatalities on our roadways.
Lieutenant Ryan Smith works in Sun Prairie and has been participating in the Click It or Ticket program for years.
We're just trying to raise awareness and educate the public to make sure that they're driving safely on our roadways and making sure that they use the seatbelts to make sure that they're as safe as possible.
If you get pulled over without your seatbelt on, police will not only give you a ticket, but they'll also give you what they are calling a valuable lesson.
We want to make sure people are being safe on the roadways, and the way that we can do that is an enforcement piece combined with education.
Reporting in Sun Prairie, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.
Tanisha, thank you. Lieutenant Smith said that tickets will begin at $10.
Next on Live at 4, whether police have anyone in custody for the killing of 2 Israeli embassy staffers.
Plus, the new rules starting next week for those of you flying Southwest Airlines. We'll be right back.
The man suspected of killing 2 Israeli embassy staff members outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C. is officially charged. 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago allegedly shot and killed 30-year-old Yaron Lashinsky and 26-year-old Sarah Milgram Wednesday night. In a video showing his arrest, Rodriguez can be heard shouting a pro-Palestine slogan. Witnesses say the man told them he killed the staffers for Gaza. The White House has condemned the attack.
At least 2 people are dead after a private plane crashed in a neighborhood of U.S. Navy-owned housing in San Diego this morning. The plane crashed just before 4 o'clock a.m. At least 1 home is destroyed and 10 others have severe damage. San Diego officials have not released information about the plane, but say the flight was coming from the Midwest. The FAA says the National Transportation Safety Board is leading an investigation into the cause.
2 more people are in jail for allegedly helping inmates escape from a New Orleans jail last Friday. Police say they arrested Courtney Harris and Corvante Baptiste for being accessories after the fact. Harris is accused of transporting inmates to multiple locations in New Orleans. Baptiste is accused of helping an inmate hide. Earlier this week, police arrested a worker at the jail for allegedly helping the inmates get out of the jail. The man says the prisoners threatened him. 5 of the 10 inmates who escaped are still at large.
Starting next week, people flying Southwest Airlines will have to follow a new rule. You'll have to make sure that your portable charger is visible if you're using it mid-flight. The goal is to reduce the risk of batteries causing onboard fires. According to the FAA, there have been 22 incidents this year alone involving smoke, fire, or extreme heat due to lithium batteries, which power portable chargers. Southwest says it plans to introduce this rule May 28th.
To Wall Street now, where stocks are at a standstill. The Dow barely down 1 point. The Nasdaq is up just 54, and the S&P 500 down 3 points.
And now let's take a look at your first warn forecast. And Blaze Keller has some good news, I think, on the line.
Yes, if you are tired of the rain, we're not expecting much here over the next couple of days. High pressure moves in tonight, bringing once again another chilly compared to where we should be night for central and southern Wisconsin. Patchy frost possible. Northern Wisconsin once again underneath another round of frost advisories. Partly sunny conditions not only Friday but into your Saturday, Sunday, further into Memorial Day. So let's plan our Friday out. Upper 50s to mid 60s, a little bit warmer further towards the Mississippi River. That's where we'll see a little more sunshine likely throughout most of the day. But like today, there'll be peaks of sunshine, cloudy conditions, peaks of sunshine until this high pressure system moves closer overhead. And that's going to continue as we go throughout the rest of the weekend. That high pressure system moving out of Canada, continuing to keep us on the cooler than normal side as we head into your Memorial Day weekend, but partly sunny conditions expected Friday, Saturday. An isolated shower underneath partly sunny conditions could be possible on Sunday and for your Memorial Day, but not everyone is going to see that shower chance. Again, this high pressure system is strong for this time of year, and there's not a lot of moisture for any of these showers to potentially use. So you're not seeing a lot of green on the map because I don't think, quite frankly, we're going to see a lot of rain chances over your holiday weekend. Now, despite the fact that we have had a very wet 72 hours, anybody in the dark blue, light blue, that's an estimated ½ inch to 1.5 inches of rain. Once you get into these purples, that's where it's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of estimated rainfall falling over the last 72 hours. We're still seeing drought conditions now expanding across all of our communities along the Wisconsin-Illinois border, stretching from southern parts of Grant County all the way east and into Kenosha and Racine counties. That's where we find about 6% of the state underneath now moderate drought conditions. So hopefully the rain, maybe some of that just missed the cutoff. It is on Tuesdays before we see this latest data that following Thursday. So maybe some of the rain got cut off. Hopefully we'll see some improvements as we go into next week. But we continue to look as though we're going to be drier than normal, at least through the end of May into the start of June. Not to say we won't see any rain, but we don't certainly want these drier than normal conditions to continue. On the flip side of that, we don't want to be continuously dealing with rain. So we got to find that happy medium, and maybe we dry out a little bit before we add a little bit more rain. But I just wanted to show you guys the latest drought conditions. Despite the fact that we've had so much rain, those drought conditions still continuing to persist and expand across southern Wisconsin. When does rain move back into the picture? Well, that doesn't look to be until after Memorial Day. Some isolated chances for showers and thunderstorms Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. And starting maybe as early as Tuesday, but definitely Wednesday, we're back into feeling like where we should be for this time of year, 70s and maybe some 80s by that following weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you, Blaze. Well, the latest Marquette Law School poll is giving us a glimpse of how voters feel about our courts and presidential power.
The poll's director, Charles Franklin, is back to talk us through these findings. Good to see you again.
Good to be here.
Yeah, so the first question, when it comes to the lower federal courts, particularly President Trump following their rulings, what did respondents say, and how did that break down on party lines?
Yeah, it's very strong support for the federal courts as well as the Supreme Court. This time we asked two questions. One is, if a federal court rules against the president, does he have to obey the ruling? And if the Supreme Court rules against the president, does he have to obey the ruling? And the answer is there's very little difference between those two. People support the rulings of the federal courts almost as much as they do the Supreme Court, and more than 70% of every party group, including among Republicans, say he has to obey those rulings.
So the question was asked about both, and pretty much with the same answer.
Yes, it's interesting because I thought maybe the esteem that we hold the Supreme Court in might make a difference, but it's a very modest difference between the two, and certainly doesn't change the bottom line. The president has to obey the courts, no matter what court it is.
Interesting.
Yeah, when it comes to presidential authority, I read that the poll asked about President Trump if he has the authority to make certain laws, to cut or freeze certain agencies if Congress doesn't act. And how are they feeling about that?
Yeah, that one is upwards of 60%, about 65 or 6% say the president does not have the authority to freeze spending and close agencies if Congress has already voted to fund those agencies. So in the low 30s say he does have that authority. Not surprisingly there, you see a bigger party difference with more Republicans saying he does have that authority. But importantly, independents quite solid in saying he does not have the authority, and of course Democrats very opposed to it.
Were any of these results a surprise?
I think partly they reinforce things that we've been seeing. We've seen for a while, because we've asked that Supreme Court authority question a number of times, that I I thought that would still stay, but I wasn't sure about the lower courts.
Yeah.
We also asked about impeaching judges, and people are very opposed to impeaching judges, and again, across party lines on that question.
Interesting.
Of course, this is all very topical because we've seen some of these questions kind of come up over the past few months or so.
Yeah, the courts are very active in responding to cases, bringing challenges to Trump's actions. Trump has obviously pushed back very hard against those court orders, and they're still working their way through the court system and eventually up to the Supreme Court. But for the moment, it looks like, while people, you got to agree that a lot of people support what President Trump is doing. He has a 46% overall approval rating in this poll. But even among those who approve of him and what he's doing, you still see this reverence for the court and agreeing that the courts do have this authority that they're exercising.
These polls are always so helpful, and wondering what the next poll might be asking, or when we can look forward to that.
Yeah, well, the next one will be in June, and we'll be back here in the state looking at a Wisconsin poll, and we'll be looking at the legislature and the governor as they hopefully wrap up the budget process, and a number of other issues about schools, and I'll keep you waiting for what the rest of it will look like.
A little tease there.
We'll see you in the late part of June with that one.
We look forward to it. We always love having you here. Thank you.
All right.
Coming up on Live at 4, it is a big weekend for brat lovers in the 608.
Josh Sprider gives us a sneak peek of Bratfest when we come back.
Remember how last summer was Brat Summer because of that album?
Yep.
It's always Brat Summer here in the 608. We're gearing up for the world's largest Brat Fest this Memorial Day weekend.
And Josh Sprider is at the Alliant Energy Center with something new for 2025.
New this year is the Bratfest Marketplace, and that's exactly where we're standing today with the Brat man himself, Tim Metcalf, joining us here at News 3 Now. Tim, I'm well. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. We're all set up. We don't have all our vendors in here quite yet, but come Saturday and Sunday, this will be full of people with all different types of crafty and interesting kind of items to sell.
This was brand new for you guys this year. Where'd this idea come from?
Well, last year we actually had our church service in here because we got rained out, and so we really got to experience this building, and we just got to thinking, what are other things that we could start adding to Bratfest? And we started thinking about a crafty kind of a gifty type of thing. So Eric on our staff started reaching out, and we've got, I think, over 70 different vendors that are going to be in here this year that are all just excited to be here to show off their talents. And it's just another great thing for you when you come to Bratfest. You can hang out and watch music, or you can come in here and just see all these interesting little things that people have made, and maybe it's perfect for you or perfect for your home, and just another great reason to go to Bratfest.
Well, and I think it's about celebrating our community too, and what more Madison than having a marketplace like this, because people love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and all this arts and crafty stuff. This is kind of like art fair in the square, but at Bratfest, and it's the first one of the year. So these people have been kind of doing all this all winter long. So you might get to see the newest, the best, the most creative stuff that they've been, dreaming about doing, and then they just had the time to do it. So I think it'll be really great for Bratfest and a great experience for our guests that come here to Bratfest too.
There's been so much history with Bratfest in general, more than 4 decades here in the community. You guys are always trying to adapt, change things, freshen it up a little bit, but it's still that staple event here for Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, it's the DNA about Bratfest is really just bringing the community together. Our celebrity cashiers, our people that work for our city or work in government or on TV. They're not sports heroes and stuff like that, but it's all about community. So we've been doing this for a long time. We've got about 1,900 volunteers that'll be on island raising money for charities that they care deeply about, and we're going to raise a little bit over maybe $100,000 this weekend, and to date we've raised like $2.7 million. So Bratfest does a lot of really great things, and it's really a great way to start out summer here in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, the summer kickoff, and you have a good time, but giving back, it's that full circle thing that we Madisonians really love around here.
Yeah. Madison is a unique community. I think we have more 501c3s here per capita than like any city in the nation. So Madison is a very giving community, and Bratfest just kind of just mirrors that. We give back a lot. There's a lot of people that take off work to be here. Doesn't cost anything to come to Bratfest. It's free parking, free admission, the music's free. You know, we kind of would like you to buy a brat and a beverage, but you don't have to. You just kind of come down here and enjoy, you know, and then start your summer off right and do it with community.
All right, Tim. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We appreciate it. And if you'd like to learn more about Bratfest or the Bratfest Marketplace, which News 3 Now is a proud sponsor of, you can go to the story up on channel3000.com. At the Alliant Energy Center, I'm Josh Breiter, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Josh. I hear they're putting you to work tomorrow.
I'm one of the volunteers. I'll be serving brats tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So people can come out and see you and say hello?
You can see me, and I think Chris Stanford will be there, a few others from News 3. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
It's going to be fun. I know. I love it there.
Do you have any toppings that you like when you make your...
I may have admitted to viewers and you that I'm a vegetarian, but they do serve veggie things. They may be veggie brats, I don't know. But I do eat a vegetarian-like meat thing.
Yeah.
Every topping. I love onions and relish, and yeah, I love it. What about you?
I'm boring. I just want ketchup.
Just ketchup?
Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty simple that way.
I want onions, and I want to smell and taste like it afterwards.
So you'll be the one who's walking around and just a pile of stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay. And honestly, I think it came from when I was a little kid. I really didn't like meat and didn't have fake ones. And I just ate the stuff.
Yeah. Oh, very good. You adapt.
Exactly. Well, coming up on Live at 4, tariffs impacts are starting to catch up with small businesses.
The effect they're having on a man from Mount Horeb and how the cost gets passed on to you.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Oh, I left the umbrella in my car. I'm enjoying the sunshine, despite the clouds, but it's a pretty good day.
It is. It's been beautiful out there.
Yeah.
And the weather words, a mild Memorial Day weekend ahead. Boy, did we need that break.
Yes. Let's go out to our Madison patio with a look at our forecast. Here is meteorologist Blaze Keller. Hey, Blaze.
Hello. Mild temperatures sticking with us through the rest of the work week and through your Memorial Day weekend, and a few days even beyond that. We're going to be sitting in the 60s underneath partly sunny conditions, very similar to what we've seen today, but probably more sunshine than cloud cover as we go into not only your Friday, but your Saturday, Sunday, and Memorial Day on Monday. You're seeing it there on the screen, the Memorial Day weekend planner. Low 60s Saturday, mid to upper 60s Sunday and Monday. Now, we may squeeze out a very isolated shower both Sunday and Monday, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be underneath that shower threat. I think it's going to be very limited based on the fact that we just don't have a lot of moisture, despite all that rain that we just got, for any of these clouds to really use and turn into rain. Taking a look at the cloud cover across southern Wisconsin, seeing more sunshine further north and west. And again, we can expect these very similar conditions into Friday and further into Saturday, but probably more sunshine than cloud cover. A high pressure system is currently moving on in, and it's going to do its job by opening up those skies. And if you stepped outside today, you've noticed also it's done the other thing. It's lessened our wind, so it's not as breezy out here as well. Another chilly night across central and southern Wisconsin, upper 30s to low 40s, so patchy frost may be possible. Yet again, our friends in northern Wisconsin underneath yet another frost advisory, all thanks to this same high pressure system. When our temperature is going to warm up, we're going to take a look at when we can expect those 70s and 80s to return and see if there's any more rain chances in the upcoming work week in the full forecast.
Thank you, Blaze. Since President Trump took office, he's introduced tariffs on many different countries.
And those tariffs caused a small business here in Mount Horeb to pause production of a new product. Our Ellie La Liberté shows us how the owner is dealing with increased expenses.
Brick Cider in Mount Horeb is a farm-to-table restaurant, and right now they're bottling their raspberry cider. But it's actually this bottle that's causing them concern. Matt Raboyne is one of the co-owners of Brick Cider. He says there are always challenges when running a small business, but tariffs can make it more difficult. His newest product is a cream liqueur, and to stand out against competitors, he wants it to come in this specific bottle. A bottle he could only find in his price range and design in China. But when tariffs hit roughly 140%, he paused production.
You know, we're talking like a $15,000 bottle ordered without a tariff because it's a bunch of bottles, and for us, $15,000 is a lot of money. And you make it 145% tariff, and all of a sudden it's like over $36,000. And you know, and I don't just have $36,000 to shell out. for a tax, essentially.
Tariffs on China have since dropped to about 30%, a price Matt says he will pay, but it will still make his product more expensive. Tonight at 6, I'll show you how tariffs like these could impact your wallet. Reporting in Mount Horeb, Ellie La Liberté, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Ellie. In other news, a man is recovering after being shot last night. Madison police say just before 10 o'clock Wednesday, a man walked into Meriter Hospital with a wound. Officers arrived and confirmed the injuries were from a gun. He is expected to survive, and police are investigating that incident.
The man who killed a UW student back in 2008 died in prison this week. 59-year-old David Call was serving a life sentence at the Dodge Correction Institution for the murder of Brittany Zimmerman. Back in 2008, Brittany's fiance found her dead in her apartment on West Doty Street in downtown Madison. She was a UW student from Marshfield who had just returned home from classes when someone followed her into her apartment and killed her. Call wasn't arrested until 12 years later in 2020. His cause of death is unknown.
New video shows the interaction Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan had with federal immigration agents that led to her arrest. She is now going to trial for charges that she helped an undocumented man evade ICE agents.
The first clip shows the man, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, in the hallway walking toward Judge Dugan's courtroom with his attorney. On the benches in the hallway, you can see federal agents in plain clothing. A few minutes after Flores Ruiz walks into the courtroom, Dugan and another official come out into the hall, and they are seen speaking with federal agents. Moments later, the agents are led through the hallway. Court records allege this was because Dugan told them they had to talk to the chief judge before detaining Flores Ruiz. This video could be used as evidence against Dugan in her trial, which begins the week of July 21st.
Wisconsin lawmakers are continuing to come up with ways to try to fund the state's child care system.
Arman Rahman shows us Democrats' plans to keep more classrooms open and affordable.
Wisconsin Democratic lawmakers have introduced a new bill to continue funding child care counts, as many child care providers in the state are counting down for when they fear the checks will stop coming in from the state. June 30th is when the pandemic-era child care counts program is set to run out. That's why Democratic lawmakers have proposed using $480 million to keep it going. According to the Wisconsin Early Childhood Association, about a quarter of the state's child care programs that receive child care counts funding reported they would somewhat or likely have to close without it, while more than 1,000 said they'd have to raise their tuition.
There have already been many closures in every area of the state, and there are many classrooms that are sitting empty that could have kiddos in them, but we just can't afford to wait any longer because we have such a huge childcare shortage in this state, and we need to get these funds in the classroom right now so that kids can stay in care and parents can stay in the workforce.
The Republican-controlled Joint Finance Committee removed child care counts from the governor's biennial budget proposal this year. Republican lawmakers have told News 3 Now they're working on a solution that's more sustainable and not a Band-Aid. Parents I've spoken to say Democrat or Republican, they don't care. They just want their child care to be more available and less expensive.
Yeah, it's been pretty tough.
Hear from them tonight at 6. For now, reporting in Madison, Arman Rahman, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Arman. Last year, the same thing happened to child care counts, but Governor Evers gathered $170 million in emergency funds from different departments to sustain the state's child care industry until next month. Taking a live look at the White House, where the president is escalating his showdown with one of the nation's most elite universities. The Trump administration just hours ago said it's revoking the institution's ability to enroll international students. The Department of Homeland Security says Harvard's existing foreign students must transfer or lose their legal status.
And the Trump administration says it will challenge a ruling that blocks the president's order to dismantle the Department of Education. This morning, a federal judge ruled that the president's order requires the Department of Education to reinstate the 1,300 employees fired in mass layoffs in March. Those layoffs, combined with the termination of probationary employees and buyouts, have reduced the agency's staff by half. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul is calling the ruling a victory. And coming up on Live at 4, the first Make America Healthy Again report is out.
The claims it makes and what a doctor has to say about it when we come back. Welcome back. Today we're taking a closer look at a new commission and how it's looking into part of what the Trump administration is calling its Make America Healthy Again campaign.
This government panel wants federal agencies to reassess the protocol for vaccinating kids and also look into things like processed foods and pesticides.
And today Dr. Zorba Pastor joins us to discuss the claims and perhaps give us a little guidance on them.
Yes, yes, a lot of stuff out there, a lot of stuff out there.
Well, first you brought some treats,
I brought a couple,
see.
that's right. So I have two things. So these are Doritos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Want me to hold those?
Yeah, why don't you hold that? And this, just want to show you snacks. This is cheese. Guess how many calories are in here, roughly? Can you guess? It's hard.
The
It's
cheese,
hard.
200.
Cheese. Very good. 200. Guess how many calories are in this?
Now, like the
400
whole
to
bag?
500.
I
The
said
bag.
5.
The bag.
Yep.
And so here it is. They say, you know, the number of servings, 2.5 servings. Now, come on. I mean, you buy a bag of this is a serving.
It's over in a
so
minute.
So where did 2.5 come from? And then I read the number of ingredients, only 42 ingredients in this one, you know, and a number of dyes in there. Now, the claim by RFK Jr. is that the dyes cause a bunch of things. The reality is, who needs this? I mean, we know we may like this, but this is engineered, ultra-processed food that really is not good for us. Right, it really is. It really, but basically it's an oil with a carbohydrate skeleton. This, on the other hand, has some nutrition. So they're bringing up some very good points about the fact that let's start to make food that's much better for us and maybe will reduce the risk of diabetes. He claimed today that 1 out of 3 kids have diabetes. That is not correct. But 1 out of 3 kids today are obese in the country. And that's not the way it was when I grew up, and it wasn't the way it was when you guys grew up. I mean, obesity is a major problem because we are eating too many sugary drinks, among other things.
And one of the things that the commission is being asked to do is to look into vaccination. And
well,
reassessing
vaccination,
that.
the idea, so first of all, our vaccines are safe. If you want to bring your child in, they're safe vaccines, they've been around. The idea that you have to do a double-blind placebo-controlled trial means that the vaccines are not going to be available. So, for instance, the COVID vaccine is available now, will be available for people 65 and older, and under 65, you need to have a medical problem. Well, what if you're 64 and you want the vaccine? So why is the government taking away my ability to get that vaccine if I want to get it? And that's really a big problem.
And all those people can still get flu shots.
And they can still get flu shots, but who knows what they're going to do. And that's because, you know, RFK believes that vaccines are bad for us. Vaccines have saved more lives than ever before. Smallpox killed 100 million people between 1900 and the year 2000. 100 million people died from smallpox, for instance. Measles killed about 20,000 people in the year 1900, and now I think we're up to, I don't know, 5 or 10 deaths. And the reality is, you know, they claim that vaccine is bad for measles. The answer is we almost got rid of measles completely because of vaccines. So I think people have to look at the science behind it versus the politicians who are yelling and screaming. And that's what I stand by science.
Sure.
Well, and I see that the commission has about 100 days to come up with a strategy. Is that a reasonable timeline?
Well, you know, you've got to come up with something. I think making the food supply, getting rid of some of the dyes and everything else, I think is a good idea. And also trying to get rid of sugar. For instance, Bloomberg tried to tax sugar drinks in New York. That failed. You know, the 64-ounce Slurpee, which is 64 teaspoons of sugar, he couldn't get rid of. So you've got the public on one side and you've got information on the other side.
One other question I have to ask that I know Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying that kids especially, but that we're overprescribed. People with asthma and ADHD and all these things.
First of all, antidepressants are really good for a lot of children.
Right.
ADHD medicines allow a number of kids to go to school. They've got to be prescribed correctly, like anything else. And the answer is these drugs have been life-saving for children, and they've helped them. Antidepressants, which we thought had bad side effects for kids, are very good if they're used the right way.
Gotcha.
That's the important point. You can't get rid of these drugs because for some kids they are life-saving, and for some parents and relationships they're life-saving too.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on with us.
It's great.
Go enjoy a snack.
I like that.
Take this. I'll take this. I'll take the cheese.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zorba Pastor. We appreciate it. And coming up live at where am I again? At 4.
I asked myself that about it.
Blaze is going to join us with your first warn forecast.
It's almost the weekend, and later Merrill Hubbard heads to the Dells ahead of one of the busiest weekends of the year.
We are going to continue to sit underneath some of these more mild temperatures, seasonably cool temperatures, at least through the next couple of days. And the reason is because our atmosphere is a little bit backed up. But we will start to see more sunshine as we go into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then further into Memorial Day. We're not expecting any big systems to move through the area, which also means that we're not expecting really any more rain. This large high pressure system is going to continue to act like a big weather shield and keep a lot of that rain either to our south or to our west or further to our east. Partly sunny conditions on Friday, further into Saturday, and then that continues into Sunday as well. Now, Sunday we may squeeze out an isolated shower. That could also happen into Memorial Day too, but most of us are going to stay dry. Again, this high pressure system is limiting that chance for any rain to really develop as it keeps our temperatures on the cooler side. We had a good stretch there of warmer than average days, stretching from the 11th all the way through the 16th. We almost got into the 90s back on the 15th when we had that severe weather. Since then, the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and yesterday, we've been cooler than average, and that's actually brought our average temperature down to only about a 0.2 degrees warmer than where we should be for this time of year from the start of the month through yesterday's date. And with the cooler than normal trend looking to continue through at least most of the extended forecast, we'll likely end up somewhere near average in the Madison area for the month of May in terms of our average temperature. So the light blues and the greens overhead, that's cooler air. So where's all the warmer air going? Into parts of Canada. Watch as we sit underneath these greens, those cooler temperatures all the way through Tuesday of next week. It's then that high pressure system starts to move off to the east. You're seeing these oranges move their way overhead, and these yellows, that means warmer temperatures. But look at how far that warm air is making it into Canada. And then we see something kind of interesting, this blast of blue coming out of Canada. That'll be interesting to see how far south that makes it. But this is just essentially saying we're going to stay cooler than average probably through at least the next couple of days. But we do see some warmer air on the horizon. It's going to take some time to get here over the next 14 days. It's going to be a slow and steady race as that blocking pattern that has been keeping us cooler than average starts to break on down. But we do see the 70s and 80s return starting Friday of next week. And really until then, we remain dry with just an isolated rain chance Sunday and Monday, then again Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Stay with Live at 4. We got more news after the break.
Memorial Day weekend is expected to be the busiest travel day of the year so far.
And we'll see many of those travelers right here in the Badger State. Merrill Hubbard brings us to the Wisconsin Dells ahead of its summer kickoff.
Right now, it's the calm before the storm here at the Wisconsin Dells as we're just days away from tens of thousands of people flocking here for Memorial Day. Drive through the Dells and you'll find an abundance of water slides to choose from. That's because there's 20 water parks, more than any place in the world. As the water park capital, the Dells attracts tourists from all over the Midwest and country. The Wisconsin Dells Visitor and Convention Bureau estimates that about 5 million visitors come every year. 40% of them come during the summer months. With Memorial Day fast approaching, for many visitors, this won't be their first time on the water slide.
The Dells is a place that we constantly hear stories of people who will say, I came here as a kid, now I'm bringing my kids, my grandparents brought me. You know, it's a generational thing. It's a place that people come back to over and over again, and we're very proud of that.
Andy Larson with the Visitors Bureau says tourism in the Dells brings in about $2 billion in indirect economic impact for the state. Reporting in the Wisconsin Dells, Merrill Hubbard, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Merrill.
And we'll be right back. Tomorrow on Live at 4, a local author stops by to talk about his new book on the Madison Mallard's origins. And later on News 3 Now at 5, hear from the Wisconsin National Guard's new Adjutant General. And thanks for joining us on Live at 4. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow. And you can always find us streaming 24/7 on Channel 3000+. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.